Actually, I'm here though, physically I'm a little
Should we say you're mentally not all the stable?
physically ill. Right here.
Good morning. I'd like to bring the December 11th, 2013 meeting to order. Would everybody please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Posenel,
Here.
Commissioner Selberg,
Present.
Commissioner Buck,
Here.
Commissioner Zarmi,
Here.
Commissioner Walker,
Here.
Commissioner Coletta,
Here.
Commissioner Jones,
Here?
Commissioner Simons,
Present.
Commissioner Gordon,
Here.
Chairman Flouché.
Here.
Thank you. You have a quorum.
Thank you. A couple of announcements. Anyone who has not yet signed in, please do so at the table located in the lobby. Should anyone wish to speak, please complete the request to speak form, which is also located in the lobby next to the sign-up sheet. A request to speak must be completed for each item that you would like to speak on, including sub-items. Please note that there are stairs on the right, center, and left aisle, and we ask that you use caution when using these stairs. There's also a ramp located at the audience's left. If anyone has written comments, exhibits, petitions, photos, or letters they intend to use at today's meeting, please have 17 copies and give them to the staff member in the back of the auditorium. She's got her hand up. Thank you. If you do not have 17 copies, you may use the table with the overhead camera next to the podium to present your documents. If you want your documents to go on record, you must hand them to the clerk after your presentation with the agenda item clearly marked on the documents. Members of the public cannot speak to the staff members in the front as they're sitting there at the table with microphones during the meeting. If you have any questions, please see the staff member located in the back of the auditorium who can meet you in the lobby. Staff members in the front. A timer will be activated for all speakers and would be limited to 2 minutes to make their presentation and statements. Everyone, please turn off your cell phones and pagers or place them on vibrate during the meeting. If you must receive a phone call, please leave the meeting area and go outside to have your conversation. We also ask that the audience refrain from talking to one another during the presentations and discussion. Today, the Planning and Zoning Commission will hear public testimony and then forward to the recommendations to the Board of Supervisors. The items with the recommendations made by the Commission will be heard by the Board of Supervisors on Monday, January 6th, 2014 at 9:30 a.m. in the same location with the exception of any continued items. Everyone attending the meeting is also asked to remember that the auditorium, building, and campus are tobacco-free areas, which means no smoking is allowed curb to curb. Also, only bottled water is allowed in the auditorium, no soda, food, and etc. Coffee is allowed in the auditorium. Approval of last month's minutes. Everybody have a chance to review them? If there are no changes or corrections, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept last minute.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from last month. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Getting to our agenda. Consent agenda. Anybody have any questions or comments about the consent agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
I'll make the motion to approve per staff recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the consent agenda. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 2.
Good morning. Item 2, evaluation of a request for a revised manufactured home and recreational vehicle park plan and a petition of exception for Sunshiner's manufactured home and recreational vehicle park on assessor parcels number 402-63-051 in the Arizona Strip vicinity, Mohave County, Arizona. This item was heard At the October 10th, 2013 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, the commission continued this item for 60 days in order to allow the applicant time to provide specific information and pictures related to the petition of exception request to allow existing structures within the required setbacks and separation distances, which is not allowed by the Mohave County zoning ordinance, and to evaluate fire separation requirements and options as outlined in the International Residential Code. Staff has provided additional information to the commissioners for review. I do have a couple staff members here to answer questions as well. Staff recommends approval of the revised manufactured home and residential vehicle park plan and petition of exceptions as stated in the staff report.
Thank you very much. Is the applicant present?
Mr. Chairman? I have a
Yes.
question for the staff.
Okay.
There's the applicant. Has this plan or site plan been reviewed by the fire department? Or do we have an opinion from which jurisdiction actually does take care of it?
Chairman, Commissioners, I don't believe this has been reviewed by the fire department at this point.
Okay, since I see Ron there, Ron, have you had the opportunity to take a look at this site plan? I know that you're an ex-fireman, so we can ask your expertise on some of the setbacks, because there are some areas that are only 2 feet, and
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commission members.
State your name, please.
Ron Durgan, I'm the Chief Building Official for the county. I have reviewed this. I have seen also pictures of there's carports. Sometimes it's an awning type thing that go into the separation between the structures. What's tough on this one, to use the residential code, typically the setback requirements in the fire code and the residential code is for property lines, buildings getting close to a property line. This being the same property, what you have is really an imaginary separation between the manufactured homes on either side. Now, when you deal distances from that separation, you are allowed to have, there are some exceptions that allow to have projections into that area. The primary structures is no issue here. Primary structures are far enough away. Where you're getting into the issue is these projections of carports and awnings coming into that area. Some of them get pretty close. Typically in the residential code, we're looking for 3 to 5 feet. 5 feet is ideal, but you are allowed exceptions again for projections into that, which gets you down to about 3 feet separation. Again, you're dealing with an imaginary line type of thing because we don't actually have a firm property line type of thing.
Ron, yeah, there are imaginary lines, but what happens if one of those property owners decides to put a chain link fence between the 2 units? That imaginary line is going to go away, and there are going to be 2 feet separation between the chain link fence and the building, right?
Well, the building code isn't going to address this either. Your setback requirements are in your zoning regulations that you're dealing with when you're dealing inside a park type of thing. So chain link fence where it's located isn't going to impact the building code requirements.
Okay. And how about the building permits for this project? It seems like, have you looked into it? How many disregards for the building permit was in this project? I mean, it seems like, they just went out there and did whatever they wanted to do, and now we are trying to say, well, we have to grandfather it in.
Well, it dates back over a number of years, as I'm sure your information notes. And, there was a time that building permits weren't required. They were actually zoning permits for doing this type of thing.
So you're saying all the improvements
So
that
a
we see
lot
on
of
this
this
site
stuff
plan
is prior to the building codes taking effect.
So you're saying all the improvements that they have was prior to the building?
I don't know that information. I know quite a bit was, but I'm not sure.
Thank you.
I have a question for Sylvia.
Chairman, Commissioners, I would like to correct my statement. When this revised park plan was submitted, we did send it out to the fire department for review, and I didn't get any comments that were substantial enough to address, basically. They didn't have comments. So I did send it out. Apologize for that.
You know, one of my, I understand that most of these awnings are the problem, but in not all cases are the awnings the problem. I just would like to make sure that if the commission decides to grandfather this plot plan as they've got it laid out, I just want to make sure from here on and forward that if anybody builds anything out there, they got to get a building permit, or if it ever comes back, we're probably going to say tear it down, because this is just ridiculous that all these years, people, I understand. I mean, some of these models that we have pictures of are not new models. Some of these are 25, 30 years old, I believe, and, you know, you just can't let your tenants just build whatever they want to build, and I just want to make sure that if we do decide to approve this, that we're going to make sure that that doesn't happen in the future.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Chris, did you want to address
Yes,
that?
go ahead, Chris.
I didn't see you.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we can certainly make the current park managers aware of that and ask them, you know, as their successors come into office, that they do so as well. I will also point out that Mohave County has a larger presence in the Strip now than we did at one time. You know, prior to about 2008, the Development Services Department, or its prior incarnation under Planning and Zoning, had anywhere from no one up there to one person up there. And now we have both the building inspectors and the zoning inspectors going up on a regular rotation. And I think hopefully both the park managers are policing this. We're trying to police it. We are policing it at the permitting stage. And I think the inspectors are you know, being more diligent about driving through and catching anybody who's got something under construction that we don't show a permit for.
Yeah, and that was kind of my point, is I don't expect the county staff to be driving through this thing every week just to see if anybody's doing something, but if a new unit gets installed, or somebody gets a building permit, I think we just need to keep our eye on those things so we don't run. I don't like grandfathering these kinds of things in to begin with, but you know, it's kind of shame on them, but we're the ones that are making the exceptions here, so.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Educate me if you could. When one of these 30-year-old units comes out, is there a permit required for another unit to come back in and an inspection process?
I would think so. Yes.
Currently, we have 43 permits on record that we're looking to grandfather in that were built prior to 1990. There are 23 permits right now waiting to be processed. They're already processed, waiting for approval, and the amount dollar-wise is $4,723.68 that will be collected for their forgiveness.
Is there any kind of planned obsolescence in other communities, like a CC&R or something, that would control the age or the possible future prediction of replacement of some of these units?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Buck, for the most part, no. Definitely not in this particular park. And the way the ordinance reads, if we have a manufactured home park and they show on the park plan, as this one does, the pad on which the manufactured home would be sitting, they're not required to get a permit from Mohave County. Now, they still have to get a permit from the state. So, and right now, and this is something that's only occurred in the last year to 18 months, right now, Mohave County is the administrator of that state program. So we will, you know, if they're following the rules, we will be notified when they move a unit in. I will point out, it's not the units that are the issue. It's all the stuff they add. And the stuff they add is supposed to get permits if it falls under the IRC, which is anything that has more than 100, anything that's attached to a main structure or any ancillary structure that's over 120 square feet. I think since we will know when these units are coming in, we'll be able to, start noting on their permit that any permanent structures attached or any ancillary structures that are over 120 square feet has to get a separate permit from the county. Mark it that way. I think, and I understand that it's not Mr. Azarmi's intention that the inspectors drive through every week, or Mr. Flouchet's, but the reality of it is we are going to have to take periodic drives through all these parks because, this is not the only park that had come, we kind of, with the advent of the building permit, because the building permit came in 2007, and the reality of it is most of these infractions were created prior to that time. And with the introduction of the building code, it's come to our attention that everybody was kind of, particularly in this area of the county, everybody was kind of just, oh, hey, I need a porch, we'll build a porch. Oh, hey, I need a carport, we'll put up a carport. And not really paying attention to where their space lines were, what kind of permits were required, what the fire code said. And so it does require us to pay more attention as well.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I have a question for Mr. Taylor. In absence of fire department opinion, if something happens within this park and we approve it and board approves and all that, are we going to be legally liable?
There are some provisions under the state statute that insulates the public body from liability. You would have to be determined to be grossly negligent. Regular negligence would not. You would have immunity unless you were grossly negligent. So, I mean, there is potential for limitation there. It would be safer, though, to get some sort of review by the fire department, and as far as like complete insulation from liability.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
in that process, in the domino effect, my thinking is that I appreciate the layer of protection, and I would suggest that we get the layer of protection before we take action and then retroactively have to respond to the fire department's opinion in doing so. Can we put that proviso out there, I guess in the form of a motion? Is that appropriate, or you?
Included, if everything boils down to how you make the motion. And that's the way everything gets carried forward. And if you don't include it in the motion, then it doesn't happen.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think that, we can, based on what I'm hearing, we can say that, we approve it based on the staff recommendation pending fire department review and approval and satisfactory approval of the site plan.
I'd suggest we take one step back and not approve it, but request that activity take place. And one other question and a follow-on, was there some reason why the applicant wasn't here today? Did they call and say they weren't aware, couldn't make it, weather, God knows what?
Would you please repeat the question?
Was there some reason why the applicant, did he call in, or they call in and say they couldn't make it for weather or any other reason?
I just came from that direction, and I'm thinking that the reason they're not here is because the traffic is all backed up on 93 getting in here.
That repair?
And I'm thinking they're probably on their way, but just have not made it here.
Okay,
Yeah.
let me, Mr. Chairman, then go ahead and go on with the motion then, that we table this for another period of time, what's necessary to get the fire department inspection and a report from that to make it part of our consideration when we reevaluate the motion.
If I could ask,
Yes.
what makes the trailer parks exempt from like the trailer being permitted through Mohave County and the state, and before the trailer park can have the permits to establish a fire region? Because I don't understand, you're saying that they fall underneath this, but just for my own, I'd like to know why they don't have to follow the same rules as an individual that's putting in a trailer, upgrading a trailer.
Yeah, good question.
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Simons, in large part, that's because that's the way the ordinance was written. I think also a lot of the responsibility for making, and now, mind you, this only applies to the county permit. They are still required to get their state permit.
But that, I understand that, but
And I think a lot of it's because a lot of our review when this ordinance was written, these permits all fell under zoning permits, which were locational permits. They were not construction permits. A large part of what we looked at that time was, are they going to be connected to some sort of wastewater system and some sort of water system? And where you have a park, those systems are addressed at the time the park's put in, as opposed to the time that the unit is put in. Furthermore, if you remember, we were looking at location. The location is identified in the park plan as well, in as much as they put where the pad is going to be. So those items that we would have covered during the review have already been covered as a part of the park review.
okay, so is there a way, Lynn, when you talk about tabling this and looking at it, to go backward and make them, as of the time that this is approved, that when they get a trailer, it's not only state, but they have to pay the county permit too, to make sure the trailer's up to code. They have to have these things into play just like everybody else on a single basis, even as a whole unit.
Ms. Simons, members of the commission, at the present time, no, it is not possible to do that. In order for us to do that, it takes a change to the ordinance itself. We'll have to rewrite how those park plans come in. And, I would remind the commission that we're currently reviewing those rules, and so this is the time to put something like that in, that they come in and get a permit to put the unit in. If that's, definitely that's something that the committee should look at. That doesn't keep them from doing what they did in this instance, which was to site the unit. The original siting of these units is not the issue. The units are appropriately sited. It's not the units we're having problems with. As I said, it's the porches and decks and patios and carports that they added later. And we will still have to watch for them adding these ancillary things to their units after they're sited, whether or not we have a permit.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I just had a question. Does ADEQ have any jurisdiction here, since some of the awnings are like hanging over into the leach areas? Would they have to retrofit that to comply with the state ADEQ?
Mr. Selberg, members of the commission, most of the RV parks or mobile home parks do not have individual tanks. They have a community septic. And so chances are, I don't know what the situation here is, but Terry says she does, so I'll turn the floor over to her.
Also, the president of the Sunshiners just arrived.
He's there.
So.
He's there.
In reference to ADEQ for these spaces, this particular park is a unique situation for the septics. Each lot has a separate septic on their space for their mobile.
What are they doing for a leach bed?
They have the leach bed there also addressed.
Mr. Chairman, the leach bed is shown on the drawing.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't seen the drawing.
And there are awnings that hang over in the leach area.
There is a letter that was sent to the park president for each of the spaces from environmental health per ADEQ, addressing each one of the lots, stating that if any of the septics would fail, they would have to bring that particular space into compliance with today's code.
Mm-hmm. How would that be implemented then?
if there was any structures or anything over it that
Right.
caused that, it would have to be torn down and brought to today's
Yeah, because
standards.
there are structures and awnings now that are over.
That is correct.
So would you, as the county, would you coordinate that with them, make sure they're aware of the situation?
Coordinate with who?
Would you coordinate with ADEQ?
Oh, they are aware of it.
Okay.
They are aware of it. They submitted a letter.
Yeah, so they're, how is that implemented then, and how would it proceed from here? How would you be sure that these violations were taken care of, and how would the state interface into that?
That would, because the structures that are there would be something that is addressed by the building code to address, they have to have a demo permit, then they would go through the building department to remove this structure, and then the new requirements for what septic has to be done through ADEQ would then require a permit for that.
Right, so would you, as the county,
We coordinate
make
through
sure
all
that
of the
would-
departments. When a permit is issued, it goes through all the departments.
Right, so you as the county would make sure that would be completed then, correct?
Correct.
Good,
That is
thank you.
correct.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
The letter from the health department actually says there are 2 approved septic permits of record, and it says this is a water hole, well area, all setbacks must be maintained. That's the letter from the health department. Is that the one referring to that the health department had the report? And my question is, if it is the well area, has anybody inspected to see the proximity of the minimum 100 feet separation between the septic tank and the well?
Yeah, the well is well within 100 feet of any septic.
It is within 100 feet?
It meets the requirements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they have only one well, or is
Only
it?
one well, sir,
Okay.
for the whole park.
So I just looked at the drawing just to see where the leach beds are. Do we have any information as far as the awnings or concrete pads that if each unit has got their own septic tank, do we have concrete or awnings over the top of these septic tanks?
They do.
On some of them, yes.
That's not good.
One of the things for this park is why probably they haven't failed at this particular time, and this can probably be addressed by the president of the park, is for the time frame that the people are in this park. It's a snowbird park, and they're not, and he can address probably how
Well,
long they're there. I know.
The snowbird part of it, I understand they probably don't get used that much, but that still doesn't, somebody could move in full-time tomorrow, so,
They do, yeah, they do have like 8 residences that are there
yeah,
permanently,
yeah. I just,
just for
the
information.
requirement is the requirement, whether you're a snowbird or a full-time
Correct,
tenant.
yeah.
so.
Mr. Chairman, there is no stipulation for snowbirds in our
I know,
ordinance.
that's what I was,
Sorry about that.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a
Yes.
question from the applicant? I have a couple of questions for you.
yeah. Could you please state your name?
Terry Rosenberg, president of the Sunshiners.
I know you showed up a little bit late to the meeting.
got
I understand
tangled
there
in a
was
little
traffic on the 93. We got to the same thing. What percentage of these improvements were done in the recent years? I mean, your tenants, added, awnings, sheds, and things like that in the past few years.
Probably not any of them. All of them, most of them was put in before 1992.
So all the improvements were done before that time?
Most of the improvements, yes.
Okay, even at 1992, there was an ordinance about, the health department and the septics and not covering it up with concrete. Have you consulted at that time with the health department?
Sir, we have a letter from ADEC stating that any time a septic fails, it'll be brought up to code, and they're okay with where they are now. They realize there might be awnings over them, there could be concrete over them, there could be a shed over them.
ADQ is fully aware of that, you say?
Each unit has that letter. Each unit's been notified by ADEC that if their septic fails, it'll be brought up to ADEC's code.
I understand that part, but you mentioned also that, for the concrete that was poured on it, they're okay with it?
Yes, they are right now. As long as it doesn't fail, they're okay with it.
You know, we had some discussion before you guys were able to get here, and part of that discussion is if, depending upon how we grandfather all these issues, you know, from here forward, there'll be no forgiveness. So if somebody comes in and puts up an awning or does something and it's not permitted, more than likely, it'll have to be torn down, get the permit, and then redo it. So we want to be very clear about moving forward with all these setbacks and all the things that have happened prior to today, or before we do whatever we're going to do. That is the way it's going to be going forward, and you're going to have to get your permits from the county, and everything's going to have to be totally above board, because we can't allow this kind of stuff to go on just because someone wants to put up an awning and not get a permit and be within the, even though this is a park and not a subdivision, we just can't let this kind of stuff continue on, and it's just not good. And the concrete over the these are just things that are unacceptable for the most part, and certainly wouldn't fly in today. So just wanted to.
I realize that, sir, and I've stressed 100 times to people that if I even see anything that looks like they're modifying or rebuilding or doing anything, I'll report it to zoning immediately.
Well, you should probably have it in your leases and whatever it is that you have with the people that are occupying these units, because even the snowbirds tend to come in and do things that they probably shouldn't be doing. So
I understand that.
Okay,
I could put that in the bylaws.
Make you aware.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just a little parliamentary point here. I did make a motion, it wasn't seconded, so I either need to withdraw the motion or we need to second it for discussion.
Okay, well, we didn't have a second, so let's withdraw the motion and continue our discussion.
Excellent, I'll withdraw the motion, thank you.
Any additional questions of the speaker? I mean, I know we talked about several different ways of approaching this whole thing.
Mr. Chairman, he mentioned, it was mentioned that ADEQ had given everybody a letter. Is there some form?
There's nothing in our packet that.
No, I know, but is there somehow we could get a copy of that?
They don't have it.
Staff, do you have a copy? Could we put that on the, so we can take a look at it and maybe read it?
I thought you were reading it, I was trying to find it.
And also put it into the records.
I'd also have, on each one of these, I know that there's no dates as far as how old the trailers are. There's no markings. Do they have an updated for each one of these lots of what's on it right now? How big
Yes,
each
they
awning
do.
is, how
They
big
do.
okay. So each one of these lots, if you were to lay out a map, you can identify the trailer by year, how big the awning is, how big sheds and everything are currently, like right now?
If you wanted me to, I could.
Okay.
The zoning could do that too.
Excuse me, the chairman, also, there is a list of all the dates and everything, and they are recorded monthly at the assessor's office when they change from the park.
Okay. Yeah, if we could make sure that we have those in our packet of documents and stuff. But if you have a copy of that letter, I'd like to actually see the wording on that, if you don't mind. Sure.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor, what is the extent of I'm a little bit confused about the liability issue again, with the health department, with all these things,
We're back to the health and fire safety stuff.
fire safety, yeah?
Well, you are obligated to make your decision based upon the potential risk to health and safety. There is, under the state statute, an immunity that applies except in cases of gross negligence, a reckless disregard for health and safety. It would be safer for, you would get further, protection if you would have some sort of intervening agency that specifically addresses the fire safety concerns that you've raised. It would be much safer if we would have something from the fire department that would address the fire risks. if that's your concern. But there is, some insulation from, there is, it has to be more than negligence, it has to be gross negligence before the county would face liability.
Well, if one of these went up, I mean, it'd go up it'd just go up like no time flat. I mean, these are older units that don't have even fire, the walls in them don't have fire, retardant wood.
But getting access to when you have only 2 feet or whatever.
I know.
Well, wouldn't that apply also underneath microbursts? If you have awnings that are pretty much overlapping each other, that doesn't protect, you carry insurance to protect your home, not your neighbors. And if one
Well-
neighbor lacks you're looking at a chain reaction just because of that, boom, in safety.
Yeah. I don't think we want to get into
No, but I'm
insurance
just-
aspects, but
No.
that's a whole different.
We don't, but I'm just saying that in the
Right. No,
aspect of
that's-
safety from neighbor to neighbor and
Right.
why these setbacks are there,
I don't know that it would be, just to kind of end that, I don't think it would make any difference if it was 4 feet, 10 feet. If there's a microburst, it's just going to be devastating anyway. So, although I do understand what you're saying. Oh.
Mr. Chairman, that letter is here.
Okay, can we have the overhead camera, please? Thank you. Blow it up a little bit.
One or more.
Sir, this letter was sent to every shareholder, all 68 of them.
Okay, so they don't even say failed in here. Well, they do say system failed, but public health nuisance. So if there's any public health issues, then that's the real trigger to this whole thing. Okay. Let's make sure we have that in there. Okay.
This is Mr. Chairman, this is an undated, unsigned, unaddressed letter.
Well, I know, and that's the other part, but it's, the county's got a copy of it for sure, I think. I mean, that's where we're getting it from.
There was an ADQ stamp somewhere that I saw.
Is there an ADA stamp on that
Well,
somewhere?
was it in print somewhere?
From the county. This is
Oh.
by the county. This is a county.
It's not ADQ.
Oh,
Exactly.
yeah. Well, that's different.
Back to the county again.
Yeah, we're back to the county. This isn't from ADEQ. Yes, Mr. Hunt.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to clarify a few things. It's not an ADEQ function. That's a county function to regulate the septics. So the letter, I'm not familiar with it, but it should have come from the Environmental Health Division, which it did. And what I understand, and I can't speak for them, I don't know the regulations, but I believe that the regulations back in the 90s were different than today. And at that time, it was okay to cover up septic tanks back in the 90s. And then the ADEQ regulations were changed, and the administration was delegated to the county, and the county keeps these rules. And I think what this letter says, it kind of confirms it, that if the system fails, then the county will follow up on it, and then they have to remove all the obstructions and the covers and meet current standards. But until it fails, it's grandfathered in under the old regulations whenever they put it in. That's what I understand from that letter.
So
And,
what
and
we're
it's a county-administered function.
So what we're saying here is that the county's function or the county requirements are the same as the ADEQ?
Absolutely.
I mean, if you have to get something from ADEQ if you're going to put a new septic tank in anywhere.
No.
Well,
Or
what I'm
in the city you do.
What I'm saying is that the county regulations are exactly the same as ADEQ. Actually,
Okay.
what the county does,
ADQ.
county has a delegation agreement with DEQ to administer those regulations, but it's the county inspectors, and the county is the one that's going to administer it. Actually, it's going to be Development Services Department starting in the spring sometimes. We'll be following up on these. And we're going to follow the DEQ regulations very clearly, and I think that's what, I'm pretty sure that's what Environmental Health has been doing.
Mr. Chairman, since 1972, there's a bulletin number 13 issued by the ADEQ that is being, respected by the Mohave County Health Department. And as Director Hunt said, they were more lenient about these septic systems and, all the things. And as we got closer to 2000 and 2005, it got more, it got more teeth on it. So unfortunately, in this particular case, it is what it is. It's already done, and I think that, as long as we can find somehow a mechanism to close the door for any possibility of any liability for the county, which I think that, we can approve it, in my opinion, pending the review and approval of the fire department. I think that's the only part that Mr. Taylor mentioned, that, we have a little bit of a soft spot. I think that, that should be good to go. And if any of those septic systems going to fail, health department, or in the near future, building department or planning and zoning is going to be, development services is going to basically review and make sure that, they would correct that situation.
I agree.
That's what I suggest to the commission.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Mr. Rosenberg, are these units individually owned or by the 63 or 60, whatever the number was?
68 units. We are a corporation. We have 68 shares in that corporation. Each share has a unit.
So if the burden of improving these or changing these to comply with the code were to be requested, would it be something the corporation would then special assess their 68 members to pay for, or is this something the corporation does and then would reap the benefit, I'm assuming the cost, by increasing the rents? How would
If there is an assessment against a share, i.e. a lot, the corporation would sue for the lot owner, the shareholder.
Okay. Thank you.
They're aware that they're responsible if anything, any costs come out of this thing, and I'm sure there will be.
Okay.
Any other comments or thoughts?
I make a motion.
No,
Mr.
I
Chairman.
agree with Many that I think we should propose it based on the
Well, I do too,
Fire
because I'm getting back into this, setting a precedent where someone could come back or something come back to bite us.
Michael has a point.
Yes, Mike?
Yeah, I would agree too with the Medi that I think if the fire department, I think we have closure on the septic deal there, and if there's a problem, it needs to be brought up to current code. And the fire department, there are some pretty tight setbacks with some of those awnings and structures, and I think the fire department will be the one to say either some of those need to go,
Yeah.
or they'll accept them as is, and that's, I don't think is really our call. I think we need their assistance on that.
Sylvia?
Chairman, Commissioners, I did want to clarify one more time that when this project was submitted, I did send this out to review to the fire department and all other reviewing agencies. And if there was a substantial comment that I felt needed to be in the staff report, I would have put it in and had the applicant address it at that time. If you would like us to get an updated letter, I can, and I'm sorry I don't have the file here today.
Actually, I think that would be really good, because based on what you just said there, the fire department wants to take the liability on this if something were to happen.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I think we should demand the fire department to review and approve. This way, that would be the way that the county would be, to some extent, off the hook. So that would be the applicant's, duty to follow up with the fire department, let them, review this park and provide, because they're recipients of the, the property taxes that they receive anyway.
That's right.
So that's their job to at least, review it and provide comments. Thank you. Mr. Chair, if there's no other discussion, I can.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve for staff recommendation with one additional item, the stipulation of the fire department, the jurisdiction of the fire department to review and approve before.
Go ahead, but just don't forget about new stuff.
Approve before they basically proceed with this thing, and also make sure that, the applicants know that from this point on, they have to apply for any new permits for the new improvements that they will make on that park.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
Opposed?
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 3.
Item 3 is an evaluation of a request for rezone of assessor's parcel number 253-14013 from an AR 36A agricultural residential 36-acre minimum lot size to AR 10 and AR 15 agricultural residential 10 and 15-acre minimum lot size zones to allow creation of 3 residential parcels in the Windmill Ranch vicinity. Staff recommends approval as indicated in the staff report. Thank you.
Is the applicant present? Would you like to address the commission? I guess so. Please state your name.
Billy Odell.
Billy? What can you tell us about this?
Well, I'm just separating it to put it in my 3 children's names.
Okay.
I'm not getting any younger.
None of us are. All right. Any questions of the applicant? We have no speakers on the item. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
No comments or questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve item number 3.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for item number 3. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Have a Merry Christmas also. Item number 4.
Item 4 is an evaluation of a request for rezone of assessor's parcel number 351-01023 from an AR 36A agricultural residential 36-acre minimum lot size zone to AR 5A and AR 10A agricultural residential 5 and 10-acre minimum lot size zones to allow 5 residential parcels in the chloride vicinity, and staff recommends approval as indicated in the staff report. Thank you.
Is the applicant present?
I'm Marjorie Ware with R.W. Holmquist and Associates, if you have any questions.
And you're representing the applicant?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions of the applicant? We have no speakers on the item. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve per staff recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for item number 4. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Merry Christmas.
Are you going to have that as part of the motion?
Yeah, why not? Call to the public.
Huge crowd.
No one's responding to call to the public. We'll end the public comment. Any monthly reports that we need? I guess not. I'd like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. I know we're going to go to lunch, and
Move to adjourn.
that's the next thing on the agenda.
No, sir, you got
And-
commissioner's comments, if you would, please.
Yeah, any comments? We're game.
Mr. Chairman?
It's only 10:49. Yes.
I know, we have time to kill.
Yeah.
If in the course of our discussion and our deliberation, there would be a legal question that develops where we would need advice from our attorney, is there the capability of this organization to go to executive session
Yes.
where you don't air the laundry?
Yes.
It doesn't reference that in the agenda, so I wonder if we need to add that to the agenda that we may, and maybe it's there, I didn't see it anyway. Is it in there, Chris, that if we had to, we could take that action?
Mr. Buck, members of the commission, yes, it is. On the first page, it says the Planning and Zoning Commission may, by motion, recess into executive session to receive legal advice from the board's attorneys on any item contained in this agenda.
Oh, you mean the bold and underlined
Yeah.
provision there in the middle
I
of the
will not
page?
point that out, sir.
That one?
Can we put that in red?
And green.
And since no one's here, I need about 5 minutes, and I don't care if the staff's here, it's just a point in our discussion and deliberations, and since there's no one in the public, can we do that just for 5 minutes to make a comment? Is it, Mr. Taylor, is it a major process to go in executive session, really declare it, and then therefore we're all sworn to secrecy and we continue with our discussion?
You can go into the executive session and provide me with enough facts to raise your concern. I can provide you with legal advice, and any deliberation, any decision making will have to be in open session.
Good enough, can we do that? Can we go in
You want to do it
executive
right now? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, just take 5 minutes. I think it's an important point that I wanted to raise.
Mr. Chairman, I think Mr. Buck needs to move to go into
I was so moved, yes.
Okay. We have, can I get a motion to go into executive session?
I would like to make the motion to go in executive session.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to go into executive session. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. All right. Let's go.
We go to the back.
Oh, we do, okay. path there?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Jack, would you do that? Right.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor of adjourning the meeting?
Wait.
Aye.
Don't you have to
Mr.
get
Chair,
to
Yeah,
the executive
Mr. Chair,
session?
we have to end the executive session first.
Oh, okay. Well,
I was
thought we
moving
did.
to.
All right, those, let's go rescind those motions then, and
Mr. Chairman,
Our
yes.
motion
make a motion to adjourn the executive session, return to open session, and adjourn the meeting.
thank you very much.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
You already do.
Well,
So moved.
we had to rescind that, so.
So moved.
No, I made that motion. in
Got
my
a second? Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Meeting is adjourned. Merry Christmas to everybody, and see you at lunch.
See, you guys. See, you guys put the.